Good evening. We're calling to order the regular Tuesday meeting of the Planning Commission for today, Tuesday, July 26, 2016. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Metcalf?
Present.
Commissioner Bundy?
Here.
Commissioner Chase?
Here.
Commissioner Friedman?
Present.
Commissioner Caldera?
Here.
All right then, now is the time of the year that we elect officers for the commission.
Yes, I would like the pleasure of once again nominating Peter to be our chair. He's done an outstanding job, and when things are going well, why change them? So I put Peter's name in nomination.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do them individually, then we'll do vice chair after this.
Yes, please.
Okay, so seconded, Commissioner Metcalf?
Aye.
Commissioner Bundy?
Aye.
Commissioner Chase?
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman?
Aye.
Well, you could,
Yeah, I
Commissioner
can-
Caldera?
Aye.
Okay.
And I would like to respond by offering a nomination, Phyllis Metcalf as the vice chair.
Second.
Okay. Start with Commissioner Metcalf?
Aye.
Commissioner Bundy?
Aye.
Commissioner Chase?
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman?
Aye.
Commissioner Caldera?
Aye.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
both
Thank you,
motions
guys.
pass.
Yeah.
Pass.
Thank you.
I will ad-lib and simply say that
Political conventions.
Phyllis is doing a great job in supporting the commission and our agenda here, so thank you. Tonight, item 2 on our typical agenda is the time at which public comment is available for anyone in the room who would like to make a comment for something that is not on the agenda tonight. And I see no one rising to that opportunity. So we'll close the public comment section and we'll go straight to our new hearings. So tonight we have a new hearing for 1441 Casa Buena Drive, a design review application for exterior modification and site improvements for an existing 32-unit multifamily development. Commissioner Caldera, do you have anything to declare about this, or are you available because of your proximity?
Yeah, I'm required to abstain because I live within 500 feet of the subject property. Therefore, I will recuse myself from the meeting, from voting and participating.
So for clarification, that will be a recusal.
Yes,
on
a
this item.
recusal.
Okay.
And for the clarity of purpose of that, would you please go have some chocolate in the kitchen?
No. Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's too hot to have hot chocolate. I hope it's cold.
It's cold now. So thank you. So the four of us will review this, but we have a staff report from Mr. Bush to begin this.
Alrighty. So again, we're focusing on 1441 Casa Buena Drive. It's a 32-unit rental property, about 3.5 acres in southwest Corte Madera. Here we have a vicinity map showing the general location adjacent to 101. And moving along here, here is the site plan showing the topography. The lot is stepped down. There are 4 buildings. I believe it was built in 1961. The site context here includes duplexes, single-family residences, and other multifamily developments as well. This is zoned R2 multifamily. And here you can see it is adjacent to Casa Buena Drive and 101 between Meadow Valley Road. Here is an aerial showing, again, the placement of the buildings around an interior courtyard. A good deal of open space around the center. There are currently yards around the exterior of the property on all the elevations of the buildings facing the parking lot, which serves as a buffer around the property. The yards are, just for clarification, are here around the exterior, and there are no interior yards at present. And there's a walkway that connects all the buildings that goes around the interior of the property. Here is a typical elevation facing the exterior. This is taken from the parking lot adjacent to Casa Buena Drive. Proposed here with this project are chiefly changes to exterior materials. Here you can see the existing green awnings, the fencing, the existing stucco, and the roofing materials have aged significantly. The applicant, through this project, is seeking to respond to deferred maintenance here. The fencing, as you see here, I believe this is building 100, is going to be replaced. The awnings will be removed. The windows have been replaced recently in the entire development from a previous building permit submittal. So what you're seeing here are the new windows. The palm tree that you see here on the left is slated for removal. Here is another angle of that same elevation adjacent to Casa Buena. And here is the proposed elevation. So as you can see, the green awnings have been removed, allowing more sunlight into the upper levels. The fencing material has changed from the vertical slat to the horizontal here. These are 6-foot fences. There's new accent panels with a stained wood veneer that will be the same material used in the fencing, which will be, I believe, either cedar or redwood, and that's to be determined. Also, you'll see some hints here at a new landscape plan, which will be shown shortly. Also, wanted to point out the detail of new lighting. All the fixtures proposed, as shown here, will be dark sky compliant, shielded so as to prevent glare off-site. Here is a typical interior or elevation facing the interior courtyard. Again, it's clear that the materials are aging, the design as well. Slated for changes here again are the materials along the roofing, the siding, the balconies, and as we see here in the proposed elevation, again, a continuation of similar materials as the outside-facing elevations. There is a color materials board that will be going around shortly, showing paint chips as well as an example of the stained wood, which is a significant element shown here in the fencing, as well as the balcony railings. Here you also see one of the more significant changes on the property. In addition to the materials that are changing, there's the addition of new fencing, creating new private yards. There's a 4-foot fence on the elevations here to create some transparency between the private yard and the interior courtyard, as well as 6-foot fences that are used as privacy fences between each yard. Just to go back here, here's another angle showing that basically the existing lawn area adjacent to the inner walkway here will be converted to these private yards. Again, here's another looking top down at that same change here with the new interior yards. So these will have yards facing the outside of the property as well as the inside of the property. Here's the landscape plan. The landscape, a number of elements are slated to remain, as you can see here with the trees, the existing vegetation, which is significant, especially along the southern portion of the parcel between 1421 and here 1441. There are approximately 20 trees that are planned for plantings here, the specifics of which have been indicated on the landscape plan. The majority of the landscaping that's proposed to be changed here are again on these interior yards to create a more attractive area for residents. The plantings are nearly all drought tolerant, fire resistant, and native species, which is consistent with what the general plan calls for new landscaping. Also in the landscape plan, you can see the indication in red where the new fencing will be on the interior. Here is another angle, looking again at the interior courtyard and the areas which will be converted to private yards. Here again is a photo of the existing conditions, showing between two of the buildings here that there is a change of grade, and as indicated on the plans, the area here will not, interior yards will not be created here due to the challenges of the topography of the site. Fencing along the outside, I believe buildings 200 and 400 may remain and will be replaced and repaired as necessary, shown here. Again, looking at the site plan here, sheet T2 and the plans provided gives further indication of the location of all of the interior fences that are proposed. And ultimately, staff believes all findings can be made for the project and recommends approval of the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. So of the commissioners up here, before we have a hearing from the applicant, I believe, is there anyone who has questions for the staff at this point? Phyllis, do you have any questions?
Yes. Going back to one of the first things you talked about, Doug, the wood veneer that's going to be put on, right. And you said it was going to be the same as the material used for the fence? Is the fence not going to be wood?
The same stain and the same wood.
Oh, the same stain. I'm asking because I'm thinking of Wood Cup and the quote-unquote wood paneling in those buildings, which is, well, I won't explain it the way Councilmember Lapper did, but I want to be sure we are not getting that same type, that same product again and that same, now, I saw this and I was examining this, but I just want to hear it for the record that this is not whatever that stuff is called. It's that Wind Cup.
Prodema, yeah, no, I mean, that's why the material board, and this is what the applicant is presenting here tonight, is this board. So we've been very clear, I think, with the applicant, that if this is what's being presented, this is what's going to be put up there.
I hear the word veneer now, and I shudder. Not that I used to, but I do now.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking, and I want to be sure we don't end up with the color like this and not like what we're dealing with over there.
All right, thank you, Phyllis. Anything else for this
That is
at this
all
moment?
this time.
Okay. Dr. Bundy? Questions for staff at this moment? Yes.
Yeah, Doug, I had looked at the drainage on that and had seen the existing drainage pattern with the new buildings going into the south. Understand drainage has been considered in relationship to that with much more permeable surface and much more runoff. Can you explain what is being done, I guess, between the two properties to accommodate the excess runoff?
There are no changes in drainage that I'm aware of as part of this plan. There is a change from the existing lawn area to new plantings, as well as new sidewalk or concrete impermeable surface there. So,
Will the construction and buildings on the site, the new townhouses to the south, with the increased runoff from that going into that same drainage swale, is it going to be able to accommodate that?
Well, they're actually required to not increase runoff on that site. So they have bioretention areas and other measures incorporated into that plan for those townhomes to ensure that there is no problem with the existing drainage system. So they have to meet all those requirements and will be expected to, they've incorporated that into their plans that were submitted as part of the building permit set. As part of the design review approval, which happened last January. And we'll be coming forward with the engineering associated with that to ensure they've made adequate provisions for runoff.
Okay. It looks, with the wattle that's around the existing drain there, that to accommodate what looks like a fairly good watershed, you would need to have at least a drain that was sort of stacked up with fenestrated sides, so that if you did get some clogging or debris, that as it clogged, it would still be able to drain above the clog. It didn't look, to me, it didn't look adequate for what's going to happen with the new construction. And then, of course, if that clogged, that's going to affect that parking lot for the existing buildings or the 100 buildings.
I could say that there's been a lot of attention with the two projects on drainage in that area by Public Works Department. So they are aware of it and definitely looking at drainage in the area and are
So I think,
taking care of it. Yeah.
Bob, that that's just a wattle for construction drainage there. But we had, as I discussed, there was a address of that specifically in the approval of the drainage for that site, that it was improved and that there was bioswales put into that system over there. And so it doesn't impact this property, and we're here to discuss this one. So this one doesn't have a drainage problem that we're aware of. And it's not anything that we can anticipate there being a problem.
Right. And I think also Public Works Department is working with actually Caltrans to address drainage coming off the highway, which is actually a significant part of the problem. So that's part of the solution as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Jennifer, do you have any questions for staff at this point?
I think this is a question for you guys, but did we consider, like, around the back, I have two questions, actually, if you go back. Keep going to the existing, the one that shows the front side, I think, facing, there's no question about what something is.
The front of the building new plan? Is that what you're?
No, go to the existing one that's, maybe it's towards the end of your presentation, Doug.
That was the front of the building.
Not the front, then it's the back.
The
There's
back.
like some sort of,
Oh, the parking.
yeah, okay, this. What is this?
Those are mechanical enclosures that are on the plans. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it. And then, did we consider, as part of this application, I saw that around the back of the building, there's trash, there's no trash enclosure. Would that be part of this requirement, that we would add a trash enclosure there? Or would that be sort of outside the scope of what we might ask for?
I think it's something you can discuss with the applicant and how they're going to address that.
Okay.
It's not,
It's not part of this. Okay. And then one other question on the interior lawns. Are all the lawn areas being taken out, and it's just, like, all of that grass is being taken out?
Only the area
These
of the
areas.
proposed, interior yards will be changed.
Okay.
Otherwise, there
That
are
won't
no
stay.
proposed changes to
Okay.
the grass area.
Those are all my questions. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. I think we'll ask some questions of the applicant. So who's going to speak for the applicant? Please. Step up to the microphone, say who you are and what your role is. No?
There we go.
All right.
Hi, pleasure to be here tonight. Thanks for your time. My name's David Silver. I'm one of the owners of the property. And first want to say thank you to Doug for all his work. He's really been great with our team, so thank you. And this is the first time I've been in front of the Planning Commission, so thank you. I know there was a lot of history with this site, and I don't have a bunch of history with the site other than we just purchased it. I'd like to put everybody's nerves at ease to let you know that we have no plans for any big redevelopment. We just own apartment buildings, for rent apartment buildings, so that's our long-term plan for this. All the owners are local, in Corte Madera, Larkspur, and Mill Valley, so our intent is just to breathe life back into the property. It had been neglected for some time while they were looking to redevelop the property, and so we inherited it with quite a bit of vacancy. And so I'd say it had been neglected, so we just want to make it something that our residents can be proud of, we can be proud of, and the community can be proud of. And that's really part of who we are. We're pride of ownership owners. And then I'm not familiar with what you'd like me to speak about, just the project in general. Is that your preference?
Well, you have put before us a proposal to remodel the exterior of these buildings and create a more attractive, usable unit. It appears that there were 2 prior building permits that did some more work on the units that were not part of our review. So if anything, I would ask you to talk about the aesthetic and the materials and just describe as best you can what's happening to the exterior of these buildings.
Sure, my pleasure. The one thing we're excited about at this property is just the bones of the building and the setting. As Doug mentioned, it's 3.5 acres, so there's a ton of open space and a ton. The pictures don't even do it justice how much mature landscaping there is around there. We really don't want to touch any of that. We want to leave the natural landscape and the setting pretty much. Yeah, that shows all the trees there. So from a landscaping standpoint, we're really just accenting what is there. Doug had mentioned that there were about 20-some trees that we're adding. In those areas.
Here, you can use a laser pointer.
Thank you. In a couple areas, the trees are kind of very small and never kind of took. And in these little areas, right, kind of in some of these, there's like 3 trees in each of those. And then we were planning just to make it nice for the residents, for them to have a little bit of shade in their yard, to add a couple of trees here. There'll be little other plantings around, but for the most part, what you see out there is going to remain. From the exterior standpoint of materials, if you could put it to one of those. Yeah, thank you. These are the existing new retrofit windows that were put in. Some were there already, and we added for the remaining that had not been replaced. All this stucco here will remain the same. And then we thought it might be nice, so it doesn't feel kind of so motel style, to add some breaks visually with this wood. And Councilmember Metcalf, you had asked about the type of wood. Our intent is not to have any kind of synthetic. I don't know what the wind cup site was or what exactly happened there, but the wood that is here is supposed to be the same wood that's right there and stain the same way. This will be something that will stain over time, but it's not like a plastic, synthetic anything. I think we're contemplating a few little bushes around here. It's really a pretty light renovation from what we've seen in the industry. So I think that's pretty adequate there. Oh, these lights, they're just some old fixtures. So that's going to be done. If you could do the back, yeah. So there are some, right now, there are some really heavy stucco wood patio enclosures at the top. It kind of adds unnecessary weight, and it really dates the property. And so we're going to just remove those. There's some dry rot in those areas, so we're going to remove them and put in these. Probably the most meaningful addition we're making is giving the residents a little bit of their own private space so they can be outside and they can enjoy it. As Doug mentioned, there are these privacy walls that are right here, so you can enjoy sitting out in your backyard and not see your neighbor. But we were really intentional that the residents are going to want to look at this beautiful landscape. So we kept the walls low here to create a social environment where people could interact and also look out at the pool and the landscaping. And again, you'll see a few little plantings here. And the walkways are a little bit deteriorated, so we'll be replacing those walkways. In this portion of the building, it's hard to kind of tell from this design, but there's currently stucco and siding. We'll be keeping the existing stucco and making repairs and replacing the siding in certain areas. We'll be painting the doors. I mean, that's pretty much, it's pretty light. Besides this one feature, it's pretty much replacing what's already there with kind of updated materials. And again, I go back to, it's really about creating a pride of ownership property where the residents, the community, and everybody can look and say, wow, this enhances the community. If you wouldn't mind going back to the existing photo of the back. Yeah, right there. Nothing's really been done to this property. It was built in '61, and so it's just kind of all existing materials from them from that time. I think high level, that is kind of covers materials. Where we do some replacement, it'll be a hardy siding, which is it looks like wood, but it lasts a long time. It's a cementitious board, so it's lasts 50 years, so it should last for, at least that, I would imagine. We'll be painting it as we showed in the spec there. And yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. So that would comprise your presentation then? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
So, back up here at the commission, we're going to ask you some questions.
Great.
All right, and I'll start with Phyllis to have her ask you what you'd like to find out.
Well, I'm really pleased to see it remain a rental property. I think it's important that we retain the rental properties in town. It's a good choice of colors. You've answered my question about the materials, and I was serious when I
Yeah.
asked it. It's a vast improvement. This is an aside. Have you been able to rent any of the units, or you're just going to wait until after you fix up the exteriors?
Yeah, we're gonna wait. We have quite a bit of work to do out there, and tonight's a big night for us to get to the next chapter. So we really need to focus on bringing this property back to life, and then we'll start with that.
I think it's going to look very good and be a major improvement.
Good, all right. Dr. Bundy, any questions for this presenter?
Yeah, David, I think you're right. The bones of the property are really quite nice. There really are mature trees that are around that provide a lot of shade, and you're adding more to it. I guess as I was looking at it, the fencing that's going to be on the interior, this is an amenity that residents, it's a trend, and it's what residents like as far as creating private space.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I was a renter once, and my heart goes out to renters that sometimes when you rent, you have to make compromises. It's very rare. In fact, we've looked around. We can't find a community that has had the luxury of the space to give a rental resident the option of having their own private kind of backyard space. And so this is not an investment we had to make. This is, again, along the lines of the pride of ownership, that we really feel like this is a nice feature. And what's really nice about it, as Doug mentioned, there's one kind of small part of the property which, if you can go to the site plan, in this area, Doug showed a photo that like looked up here. There are a few little areas where it doesn't make sense to add little backyards because it makes it feel too tight. We're kind of fortunate that we have, it's only about 10 units to the acre, which is so low density. And you can put these backyards in which feel generous to the resident, but it still preserves all this open space, which is really exciting for us. So that's a long-winded way of saying it doesn't have to be done, but we're investing in it so the residents could really enjoy that.
Okay. And I guess the other question just goes back to my original thought on concerns about the drainage. Do you have any concerns that the development of the property to the south is going to make that drain or the catch basin and the drain that goes into the culvert, potentially inadequate or cause some problems where you could have some flooding in that parking lot and those lower buildings?
Yeah, I can see why you brought that up. This is kind of a low point right there in between the freeway. There's like a little creek there, and there's a couple of drains down here. We've looked at it, and and we don't have a concern right now. I'll tell you that if we find out that it's flooding, we'll figure it out. I mean, we're not the type of guys, you can tell by our investment, we put doing the right thing first versus the money first. So if there's a problem, you can bet that we'll be down at the city saying, okay, how should we deal with this? But right now, it seems like it's been pretty well taken care of.
Okay. And then the last thought is, you're really providing some nice amenities, and I think this is really a nice upgrade. Had you thought about undergrounding the utilities on the property line that as you border the new development to the south? I noticed that there are a couple of poles there, and it seems like they just provide electricity to your buildings. Was there a thought in eliminating those poles and undergrounding that, since it's a terminal line? It doesn't go, back to Casa Buena.
Yeah. I can't say that we put a whole lot of thought into it. It's always something that's on my mind. I don't love wires up in the air. But if I have to make a choice between an investment in something that the tenant will appreciate, the resident will appreciate every day, a lot of people are used to lines, so it doesn't really economically usually pencil to do that. And they're kind of, these right here are high-tension power lines.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything with that. And there are a couple other small ones, but, the landscaping is so grand there when you're on the property. I think your eye really goes to the mature landscaping. So I'd say we think about it, but the economics generally don't work when you have to do everything else. But
Okay.
thank you.
That's
Did I
all.
do it for you? Okay, thank you, Dr. Money. Jennifer, you have some questions for the applicant?
Thank you. I think it's a really nice design. I think it's a huge upgrade to what you have.
Thank you.
Can you answer my question about the trash enclosure? Because it looks like you have a lot of trash cans and also dumpsters sort of just sitting in the back there.
Yeah, actually, checking my, had texted one of my team members to ask him about that. Right now, so visually, first of all, from the street, you cannot see any trash. To see the trash, you have to go all the way up back here, and there is a bunch of individual cans. I think at some point, we generally like to build trash enclosures and have one dumpster. So if you wanted us to do that, we'd be more than happy to do that. We don't like clutter and garbage and recycling
I can't
cans.
even understand, like, if maybe certain units have individual trash cans and then other units use the dumpster, or
Yeah,
what the protocol is there, but maybe just something to consider. I wouldn't say it has to be done, but
I think there's a high likelihood at some
if it
point.
was my project, I would do it.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. There's also kind of, it's never fun when you own an apartment building to have like a 10-ton truck driving over all that asphalt, because eventually, so,
Right, maybe you could move it up closer to the street and enclose it in a
Yeah.
more attractive way. And
yeah, at some point, I think we're gonna look into that, but I share the same kind of design concern.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I have a couple of questions for you on this. There's no real hardscape improvement beyond what's just around the buildings. So we've talked when the other project came before us about a sidewalk or some sort of improvement a way to indicate pedestrian access or something at the street side. Adam has said that the town is working on a plan, and I don't know which side of Casa Buena they're working on for a sidewalk out there, if that's in the works. So that's just an aside, but, so part of our discussions with earlier projects was how to create safety for pedestrians and encourage that amongst developers, and in this area, that is a problem, and the neighbors have all pointed it out, that there is no place for people to walk in that area, particularly if you're parking outside the parking lot and you have to park on Casa Buena. So it's not part of that, and it's not part of our purview because it's not proposed. I don't think that we can condition that at this point, given what's before us, but I think that you should look at that as an owner of the property and an enhancement to the property. It's very important to the townspeople, and we've heard a lot about it. So as you become familiar with the property, I would encourage that to be addressed.
Okay.
So I think it looks to me like the current occupancy is about 0 right now. Is that about right?
It's pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a timeline for this work, and although, we have, and the building department has regulations for it, your issue is to commence, your intent is to commence this immediately and get it done and get the units reoccupied, re-rented.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does not make a lot of economic sense for us to keep it vacant.
So, there's been a lot of discussion about having the tools to make sure that a developer or an owner progresses through improvements and construction as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
So there is a timeline that is given to your permit when you're given a building permit, and I'm presuming that this set of plans is going to turn into a different set of plans for the building department, and you'll be given an amount of time to complete the work. Is that right, Doug? What is it, a year or 6 months or something like that, typically, for this kind of work?
I believe the design review approval expires in a year if
Okay.
building permits aren't
All right.
filed.
Right. So
What about
that's,
the project being finished?
No, there's not, there are no ordinances in the Corte Madera for requiring project completion by a certain amount of time, other than the fact that the building code requires that a permit or building permit, once issued, is basically an inspection is made every 6 months to
Right.
continue that.
right, that's the deal. Right,
Applicability
so
of the
there's an initial
building permit.
time period that the permit is granted for, and that somebody can extend it endlessly.
Yes, and we have that in certain, mostly, usually on,
Right.
it's a single-family home problem rather than a.
All right, so your timeline is to get this underway, and people have always asked us to be concerned about that. We don't really have a tool to make sure that it gets done in a timely fashion, other than it's your money out of your pocket, but we hear about it. I do want to ask you about the lights that you've got there. You said those are old lights that you're proposing to put on there, or they're old-style lights?
Well, first, I just want to comment on what you just said, is that our intention, like, there are what the rules are, and then there are just doing the right thing. We want to do the right thing. We're going to start swinging hammers as soon as the city says we have a permit.
Great.
So you have my word on that. What I had said is there are old fixtures currently in place,
Yes.
and we're going to be replacing it with the new fixtures.
So it says dark sky compliant, and that looks like that might be an LED fixture that you've got up there. We are asking that LED fixtures be around 4,000 or, 3,500 or less.
Plus,
Um,
3,500.
Okay.
Is that
Color.
Kelvin's.
Kelvin?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that if you go to 34,000 or 5, it's too white and bright.
Okay.
So we would ask that they be at least under that or under. So
We're
the
happy.
town is doing that, so that's important. And in the rendering, it looks like it's a white shaded glass, but in the fixture picture, it's a clear glass.
You're talking this right here?
Yes.
I can't say that I know exactly, but this is not like a massive thing for us. We'll want it to be nice and presentable, but we'll meet the city's requirements.
So the reason I'm bringing this to everybody's attention is that there's a certain project that has a lot of these white shielded, or not shielded, white glass lenses on them, and they stand out significantly. The clear glass, not so much, right? It doesn't radiate so much, it's much
Oh,
nicer.
I gotcha. So like the frosted type of
Right,
glass.
so a frosted lens actually looks brighter to the eye from a distance than the clear glass.
I'd personally prefer it to be clear glass, and I'd also prefer, I would tell our team that I'd like the light to be recessed up.
Yeah.
So you,
Light source is not visible.
Yes.
From directly horizontal, right?
yeah,
So-
that's my personal
Okay.
preference.
Great, so that's what we would ask of it, that it be 3,500 or less, and that it stay clear glass, and that the light source is shielded. So
Okay.
that's important. Other than that, I will just say that we spent a lot of time talking about the drainage on the properties, and this site wasn't a problem, and the 1421 property it had been testified that there had been drainage problems there before, and that anybody in Mariner Green had been witness to a backup there. So we know that it has to be improved, and that's part of the plan for 1421.
Great.
So in any case, maybe we can address that. So I'm going to then turn it over to a public hearing unless you want to add anything to this at this point.
No, I just want to say I'm grateful to be working with the city, and we're excited about the project and think it's really going to be something you guys will all be proud of when you walk by it. And I'd invite you to please stop by and see it when we're done.
All right.
And I think it's going to be
All
great.
right. And it just occurred to me before you step away, it says in here that you did put out a notice to neighbors. Did anybody come by and comment or look at the plans that you have out there?
I don't believe so, no. I don't, I was not made aware by the team, so
Right.
no one came by and asked anything. I think people are generally pretty excited that we're going to make an investment in the property. What I've found is vacant properties over time attract problems. And so we want to renovate it and fill it up, and I think people are going to be happy. I'll also note that the majority of this stuff that you see here is only really visible from the inside of the property. So that's,
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll open it to the public comment section, and I would bet that Patty Stoliar has something to say. So we'll open this up to her commentary.
It's one of your neighbors.
Patty Stoliar, 1411 Casa Buena. And when I first saw that there was going to be improvement made, it kind of struck terror because I thought, oh no, they're going to do like what they wanted to do before, make it glorious, and then no one can afford to live there anymore. So I'm very reassured to hear you say that you want to keep it as not this amazing redeveloped thing. So I hope that stays your overall theme. I had a couple questions. I had the same response as Phyllis. First of all, I read on page 4 where it says that it will be repainted with a subdued orange color on the door, echoing the wood. And when I heard subdued orange color, oh my God, the wind cup lights went on. And then looking at the image, it looks like coral. And I thought, if that's what we're seeing from the street is coral like we saw at Wind Cup, and you want it to be wood,
This is the
couldn't it
back.
be mahogany or walnut or bamboo or something? So
You can
that-
look at the sample board here, Patty, and I think that is very representative of what it is, and they have to commit to that representation.
That becomes part of the application pad.
But this and this are not the same color.
One is a paint and one is a wood.
Right,
That's
The door.
the top one is the door, the paint of the door.
right.
It's above the wood. The wood is the
Subdued
base.
orange.
Yes, rust.
Okay, so that was mahogany? Couldn't we
All
do
right, you
wood
can talk
that's
to us up
darker?
here, so, thank you.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, I had a question about the LED lights, and thank you for that information about LED, because we are switching all of our lights to LED. I didn't realize that about the 3500, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the balcony. Does that have spaces in between that would act like a ladder for a toddler, or is it solid? So that
it's-
was a concern I had.
I think without having the applicant stand up there, but I would, they're vertical rail balusters, right? So they're conforming, nobody can
They're
climb up that.
horizontal,
The horizontal.
Oh, those, oh, yeah. You're right.
so that was my concern.
uh,
And the sidewalk, yes, absolutely. I know the plan on Casa Buena was that as each parcel is redeveloped, that we'll have a condition to add some sidewalk in front of that one, and then eventually it'll go down the whole street. So I hope that you consider that. And the plants, you know that the deer eat everything, so please keep in mind what is going to be deer resistant, because they love everything. And do you know who built it in 61? Because it's always been my hunch that it was the same builder as the Village Green. The style is very similar, and ours was in 63. So that is a question I had. And I've lived there for 37 years. It has not really been a flooding issue, and I heard what Bob said about that, that Village Green knows that next door at 1421 has always been a flooding problem, but not so much at 1441. So that, and yes, Caltrans is got their markers out there, and they're supposed to be fixing the runoff from the freeway, so we hope that'll be better. And the trash enclosure, I know that you talked about the one at the back, and we have a straight shot now that the building's not there at 1421 looking at the trash, but I don't see how it could be just on the front, because the people that live in the back are not going to schlep all the way to the front, so it probably has to be throughout there, but enclosures is a wonderful suggestion, so that would be nice. And I think that's everything, the sidewalk and the balcony ladder and the lights. That's
Okay.
it, thank you.
Well, given that we're not stretched by a large audience tonight, I will ask the applicant to respond to a couple of items there. So, firstly, the railings on the second floor balconies there.
Yeah.
What is the spacing between the boards on those roughly?
It's pretty small. It's not, like typically with like a wire type of thing, you have a 4-inch requirement or smaller.
Right.
This is going to be very small. You won't be able to put your foot in it, or a kid wouldn't be able to put their foot in it, so it should be pretty small. As to exactly what is the measurement,
Right.
I don't know that, but we have the same concern. We do not want kids climbing up that, so.
Okay, was there anything else in her remarks that you felt you wanted to respond to?
Well, it's nice to meet you as a
Thank
neighbor.
you.
Yeah, and thank you. The door color, just so you know, or maybe orange wasn't the best term to
Yeah,
to
it
use.
looks like it's a burnt orange. It's very
Well, it's-
subdued, I
it's
think.
rust.
Yeah,
It's
rust.
really intended to stay kind of earth tones, so, and then, I think our intent is for the plants to be deer resistant, and, I would agree with the trash enclosure comment as well, that I'll be talking to our team about that.
So just from my perspective, I know that I've brought it up before, and I have read somewhere in the municipal code that it says trash enclosures must be, a cover provided. They're not allowed to be left visible to the street in some way. That's just what it says somewhere. I read it one time. And I copied it, and when people leave their trash containers out, I put that notice on their trash container.
I think it's,
Municipal code.
I think the reference is actually with respect to commercial
Okay.
buildings, but
Okay,
I think that came up with the hotel project.
yes. All right. Phyllis?
Well, I'm just thinking, as long as they're building fencing at this point, it will probably be pretty easy and economical to add some fencing around the places where you have the trash cans now, and later on, you can think of going into dumpsters or whatever more complex, system you want to use. I'd also like to mention one other thing that Peter brought up about the sidewalk. And Patty made reference to it also. Our discussion at the time we looked at 1421 with Mr. Hooper's site, there was a lot of concern about, there are a lot of apartments. He was building townhouses for families. It's children going to school.
Yeah.
And Casa Buena is a fairly dangerous street at times, and we were hoping to, as Patty did mention, move that sidewalk down the street as more development happened. So I know I personally would be very pleased to see a sidewalk put in the front. I mean, even if it's just the same type of material as the path, but just something for the safety of pedestrians, but especially children.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to go back and talk to our group about it. I think it's something that we heard once before. We've been so focused on getting the property back to life that we haven't gone and got quotes or understand how it would tie into neighbors. But I'd say it's something we're open to looking into. Relative to the trash enclosures, we are it's been a process to get to this point, to submit and do it in the right way. And again, thanks to Doug. Our hope is that tonight that we get approved the way it is right now, and then I can come back and add the trash enclosures after, but it's something that, it's not a big item, so that'd be our hope.
All right. I think that when you're doing trash enclosures for this, you end up having to confer with the garbage collection company about how they're going to accept it or not.
Yeah.
And that's probably the bigger element of
And
garbage collection.
and to be mindful that we put them in good locations, not only for the trash people, but for the residents.
Right.
So there's a little bit of like thinking that has to be done there.
Right. So everybody's aware of what trash day is, because for every neighborhood, here's the trash trucks. You can't get away from it, but it's just, it's a fact of life. So with that said, since we're still in public hearing here, does anybody else have any more questions for the applicant? Bob?
Yeah, just following up on the trash issue. The other thing that Corte Madera is trying to comply with is the zero trash Marin, zero waste. And I know Kelly Crow from Public Works is working with some of the commercial properties as well as the, oh, okay.
It's on the plans as a Cal Green note.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So that the issue is be able to reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill and increase the amount of material that's composted and put in green cans and also recycled. And that's more difficult to do in a multifamily complex than it is in a single-family home, but that should be addressed also with part of your trash management plan.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we're kind of done here in general, unless anybody else has any other questions they want to ask. Jennifer? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this public comment section of the hearing, bring it back to the commission, and see if there's anything else that commissioners want to ask of staff before we deliberate. So strictly questions. Anybody else for staff about this? Okay. I just have one question then for Adam and Mr. Bush, that if, this is a plan that we can accept as is, but with regard to the sidewalk issue, the garbage enclosures, those are things that would be submitted separately, and we would, I don't think we can actually, Adam, this is your question, can we condition this for a sidewalk application to be created? That's a big
I think I think there's some, commission needs to use some discretion in sort of the proportion of sort of requests. There are certain policies in the general plan related to certain things like where appropriate, consider incorporation of bicycle lanes or addition of bicycle lanes or convenient access to pedestrian and bicycle facilities for new development. You know, this is a little bit of a different animal in that it's, you know, it's a rehab of an existing property that was already developed. So I would just, you know, I think the
Right.
commission uses
So, yeah, we're not really
sort
in
of
that
common
realm
sense
here, so.
principle here in terms of what's proportional.
And I would, if I may speak for the commissioners here, then ask that somehow the Public Works and the Planning Department draft a letter to the applicant requesting a consideration of working with Public Works in the sidewalk plan for Casa Buena and trying to incorporate that into the joint plan for Casa Buena with this site, and that if possible, they come back with something added, or to you guys. You know, I don't know that we need to see that, but it would be the intent of the planning department and the commission and the Public Works to create sidewalks on Casa Buena. And a note to that effect, a letter to that effect requesting a participation in a.
Yeah, and I think we can put language to that effect as in any, add that to here, even if it's not a sort of it's a condition that, of sort of, encouragement or what have you, that the applicant participate in those efforts. But it's up to the commission how they want
Right.
to incorporate that, but we're happy to incorporate that into the resolution itself, or as a separate act,
Okay.
we can make note of that.
All right, and can you, no, just kidding. Phyllis, you have something?
I would like to see it not to be part of the resolution, because it may be something that may take some time. This
Right.
partnership may want to meet with Mr. Hooper and see exactly what he is going to do. You know, maybe we could have some kind of coordination, that we don't end up with some that look like usual sidewalks and some that look like just a paved walkway. And
Right, well,
so, as I say, it shouldn't be part of the resolution. I'd like to see, I like the idea of you talking about sending out a letter to the property owners along the street, even those that are not planning doing some rehab now or construction, to see what can be done so it is coordinated and not just kind of here and there making it look pretty paved.
Agreed, but with that said, I think that, given that Public Works is actively working on a plan out there and looking for money for design grants and so forth, that something is occurring, and to encourage this applicant to participate in that would be,
To send it as a letter, I
Yeah,
should say, not
right.
as part of a resolution we're passing, because this may take a year or two before they start.
oh yeah, it
getting
would, but all I'm
things
saying is that they
going,
would.
and you're not gonna hold up a plan.
I'm not going to, but,
for a
and
sidewalk.
it's just simply a matter of the record that we would like them to continue to work with Public Works to do that. So, in any case, let's see if we have anyone willing to make a motion for approval of this or conditioned.
Well, the condition would be that a letter go out from Public Works stipulating.
We can ask them.
Or
It's not-
asking.
We don't need to put that in there if it's just a letter like that.
Okay.
But I think, having
We
said
have
so,
a-
they will do so.
Yeah.
And create such a letter, so we could leave it at that, or If we could leave it at that. I think.
Would that be a direction to staff?
Yes.
Rather than to
Yes.
the applicant, a direction to staff?
Right.
To put together a letter that's then sent to property owners or whatever?
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I also think the idea of the sidewalk is a wonderful idea, especially on this property, because you can do it relatively easy. Doesn't require retaining walls and such that you would require on other properties. So I would move that we approve design review application PL 2016-0071, exterior modifications and site improvements for an existing 32-unit multifamily development at 1441 Casa Buena Drive.
Okay, and can
The
I?
resolution, go ahead, Adam.
There's one, I would like to add one condition of the Kelvin range for the lighting.
that's
that-
right.
that we want to add that as well.
I do,
Okay, with that added.
Okay,
with the Kelvin,
Yeah, the higher
3,500.
the Kelvin number, the more white it is. So the lower the number, I even prefer 3,000 myself.
Yeah. The town is shooting for 3,500 in their lighting fixtures. It's harder to get a design range in 3,000, but 3,500 is,
3,500,
we'll call it 3,500 and,
okay,
Or less.
yeah.
or less, okay. Can you repeat the second? I think the motion is by Commissioner Bundy at this point.
Right, someone would second it with that
I
condition,
seconded it with the,
condition,
with the
condition of the lighting.
Okay, all right, we'll call the vote.
Did you want to add in the clear glass on that also?
The light should have clear glass, as shown represented in the drawings.
Well, you said one showed it and one didn't.
Well, one's opaque, but those fixture close-ups show it as clear glass. So
Okay.
I'm going to let that stand as it is.
Okay, we'll take the roll. Commissioner Metcalf?
Aye.
Commissioner Bundy?
Aye.
Commissioner Chase?
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Appeal.
You want to read the appeal rights?
Yes, got to read the appeal rights, please.
Following action by the planning commission in a public hearing or meeting, any decision of the planning commission may be appealed to the town council within 10 calendar days for a $300 filing fee.
All right, thank you.
A little warm.
Would somebody get poor Mr.? Yes. All right, thank you. We are out of the new hearings, and we are now into business items. This is the consideration of revisions to the 2015 Planning Commission rules and procedures, and Director Wolf will make a presentation here.
Right, and this is just a brief intro memo as in your packets at the request of Commissioner Metcalf. At the last commission meeting, we had a request to put on some edits, modifications to the Planning Commission rules and procedures. We've included those in your packet in a red line version. We've learned from our past mistakes on the versions we put in the packet. So it's a red line version that you can look at. In addition, staff also thought while we're doing this, we might as well take the opportunity to correct something that was bothering me about our language in the rules and procedures related to the specific type of meeting that the commission, that we've been having quite frequently over the last year or two, which we're calling study sessions, and I took the opportunity to, I think, more accurately reflect what we're actually doing at those meetings, and added that one edit there. So this is really for the commission. Just one note about process. These are ultimately have to be, in fact, approved by the town council, so we would expect whatever gets decided here, staff would then take it to the council, probably as a consent item or so whatnot, for them to look at an upcoming council meeting.
Great. Again, I appreciate Commissioner Metcalf's efforts to get this in the right language. So I'm going to ask the commissioners if they have any questions of staff regarding this. Nicolo, do you have any questions you have for staff on this?
Yes, I do. That this is actually very helpful, the changes, but I want to make sure I understand the 4.2.2. Does it also refers to, sometimes we receive a letter or an email from someone just an hour before the meeting would that be applicable to that too? And does it mean that then that someone that is sending the document is going to be told, you know, this document is not going to make its way to the desk, I mean, to the evening?
No, I mean, what we usually have before meetings are more or less comments. So those comments still will come. They're not actually
Material. yeah.
requests for actually going on as a separate agenda item. This is really, as I understand it, referencing new, like, actual agenda items that want to be placed on the
It's
calendar.
something, it came up with the discussion I had with Sloan. He was surprised that we didn't have it. The council has it, that it's at the top of their draft minutes. And I've had it before when I was an elected official. And the idea is that a member of the public may say, I'm just going to mix up that. Discussing, I want a discussion about the appropriateness of dog parks, or something like that. That would not fall under what we do. That goes to Parks and Rec. But someone may want to bring up, like, was it 221? What was 421, that one that was last, the encroachment?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I don't
Willow,
know.
the Willow encroachment, the guy who fenced in.
Yeah.
So what you're.
Any member of the public could have asked to have that on the agenda to be discussed specifically by that address. Whereas when it came forward, the way Dave brought it forward, because Sloan had asked him to bring it before us and everybody was confused, I understand, he was only able to discuss it in general encroachments because the neighbors hadn't received the notice that it was that particular address in Willow. So I'm saying the neighbors could have asked that picture show that we saw, the slides, I guess you call them, that could have been given to us in advance, so that would be giving us materials.
That can-
And staff would have put something together. That's the type of thing that comes before us. And as I say, one of the things that I added into, I used the wording of the council, except that I did say, an item for the agenda that is directly related to the business of the commission as defined under our purpose. So we don't end up discussing dog parks and I'm not against dog parks, it's just not
No.
under us to discuss. There is one thing I would like to add, just so we know. We don't have to change it, that it's now going to be the 2016. It could stay as 2015. See what you did on the cover?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just at the very end on the last page, you just put down amended and the date, we amend it. Because we might have amendments every 2 or 3 years, but we're not rewriting the whole thing, and it dates back to when we did rewrite the whole thing, 2015.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I've confused you totally.
Right.
What?
Have to address the.
Oh, I thought, you're not stuck with that. Okay. So, do you understand what I'm saying?
That's fine, however,
No.
we want to do it.
Because the council will thank us for it, because they only have to approve what we've changed and not have to review the whole thing all over again.
Good point.
That's the reason for it.
Okay, so.
I'm clear, thank you, by the way.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Jennifer, do you have any questions for staff about this? All right. All right, Dr. Bundy.
No questions.
All right. Phyllis, do you have anything else that you would like to add regarding this?
No, I think it's pretty clear what we're doing. We're just making sure, we added in that placement on the agenda, and we showed how our agenda reads at this time. Because remember, when this was written, we didn't put the tentative agenda, we didn't list tentative agenda items for the next meeting.
Right. So,
And the only other change is saying on the last page that a periodic review shall take place. So, every couple
Good.
of years, we take a look at it
All right.
and make sure.
well, certainly, I think circumstances may dictate that element that we want to talk about comes up before us. We'll find out by circumstances.
Yes.
It'll arrive at our doorstep. So we can do it that way, I think. But other than that, So we would be looking for a motion to adopt these and recommend the council approve them.
That's
That's it.
exactly, recommend
Right.
approving the proposed changes and sitting on the council.
So that's a vote from us?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
just a roll call, or is it a roll call? So does anybody have any dissenting opinion about the adoption of this set of rules?
No.
No. Everyone agrees.
All in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
We're all in
So the
favor.
motion-
Okay.
Did we get, I'm sorry, did we?
Make a motion to
Do we even
approve
get a
the-
motion?
No, we didn't. That's what I
Sorry.
was saying, because it's not really, we don't have a motion before, I mean,
Nicola, just make.
Joanne's
Yes,
getting
I just
confused
made a
here.
motion to approve the
Okay,
changes
there we go.
recommended.
Now we're good. Now, all in favor? Let's do it one more time. Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
good.
Aye.
I voted too.
Okay. So,
And you'll get it to Rebecca.
Yes.
moving right along. Dr. Buena, you were at the last town council meeting, which was a marathon session. Do you have anything to report about that meeting?
Yeah, it was a marathon session, and Adam did a really good job of trying to stay on track with the Tamil Vista corridor, which was the proposal before them that most relates to us. And I think there was some confusion on the part of the town council as to their goal, which was to give input and feedback to Adam, as opposed to asking for additional proposals to be added to it. And I think we got past that with the help of council. And as I understand it, it goes back to Adam and planning to draft into final form. And does it come before us for a final approval and then back to council?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just so, this is a process question, but yeah, we can, because it will be an amendment to the zoning, it's required to come to the planning commission first, and the planning commission will be making recommendation to the town council, who will have ultimate authority over whether to adopt or not.
Okay. There were a couple other interesting items, both related to requests from school systems. One, the Reed School System, to fund $25,000 to decrease traffic in Tiburon related to students coming from Corte Madera, and the other to provide a crossing guard for the Cove School from the the Larkspur Corte Madera School District. And Michael Lappert, I thought, made an interesting comment that these requests come to the council, and the council has no input in what the schools do. You know, the schools do what the schools do because they're an independent school district and don't have to come before planning, and, you know, don't have to deal with public works or anything. And then, as a result of what the school districts do, the town is asked to pony up money for various problems or concerns that arise. So I thought that was rather thoughtful on Michael Lappert's part. The other interesting item was they did approve the proposal to see a consolidation of the fire department with Larkspur. I think that has the potential for some cost savings and has the potential to see a future consolidation with the rest of the Ross Valley, which by consolidating the paramedic system would result in some significant savings to Corte Madera. So it's nice to see something that could actually result in some cost savings and then money available for some of the other projects like sidewalks. But it was a long session.
What was the finding on the sandbox replacement at town?
The sand was replaced. There was a issue about whether a sandbox is appropriate for a community park at this point. And I think Kevin Kramer had done some background and research in that and had some legitimate concerns, health concerns that I shared. But there was a strong push to put some sand in the sandboxes, and the council moved to put sand back in the sandbox. And it's now filled with sand.
My daughter will be so excited.
I encouraged enough to think that the problem was that people put ground glasses, you know, just vandalism. I did not realize that there is something in the sand that could be dangerous to one's health, so it's an
Like an
interesting learning
an
experience.
inhalation issue or something.
No,
And
silicosis.
But even animal waste.
I think when
Yeah.
my kids were growing up, it was a lot easier, knew a lot less, and they seem to have survived.
Yeah, you build up a really good immune system by getting exposed to all the bacteria and parasites that are in the sandboxes. So it, you know, if you survive it, it makes you healthier.
So it serves a social function.
Never mind, I didn't get it. Okay, so I felt that, you know, the idea that we advocate for buses as a general intent, whether it's the Tamla Vista corridor and creating bicycle pathways up and down that is a critical item, and that we always bear in mind that reducing traffic on the road by the encouragement of buses and how they arrive into the system is always a bit of a issue. And in that way, I felt that the commission has the responsibility of addressing that traffic item in any project that we review.
Are you talking about school buses or buses in general?
School buses, buses in general, you know, and that Tamla Vista corridor should ultimately have the ability to, you know, add in a bus stop or stops there that are positioned on the properties, and that once we were discussing Tamla Vista corridor and making sure the bikeway is there, and since we talked about the apartments here last session, and that they look at proposing or including some accommodation for busing. So the busing approach directly funded never gets off the ground that way. It always starts with a kernel of a community idea somehow, funded somewhat ad hocly, in this case, a little bit by the council, a little bit by other people, and eventually gets funded by TAM or some other larger entity as it gets incorporated into a system. It just starts that way. You know, you don't imprint a community with a bus system and expect it to live independently. And I think we have to look at it as we approach any project to create the opportunity for mass transit.
That's the corridor study.
And,
in
but
relation to it.
it's a corridor study, yeah, and I just think that, and since we were talking about busing in schools at that
Yes.
council meeting, that they said buses are going to be a necessary way of life.
If I remember correctly, last year, or last school term, that Corte Madera did put in, I don't know if it was $25,000.
$25,000. Right.
But last term.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the request for a second
This term.
term.
Second term, right.
Because there are a number of children in East Corte Madera who actually are in the Reed School District
Right.
and not in the Larkspur Corte Madera District. Down where, as about the project we looked at last
Robin.
Robin
month.
Drive.
Yeah.
Robin Drive, over there, all of those children go to Reed School District. The school lines don't necessarily match the town lines.
Right. Okay,
Can I ask a question about the corridor study, just a process question?
Sure.
yeah.
My assumption had been, when I saw on the agenda for the council, that it would be similar to the way that our PED study was, where a consultant was hired, put together a study, there was input from the community, and now it was being presented to the council. Not a study when it went to the council, but the council starts adding things and changing things, et cetera. Am I misunderstanding the process itself?
Well, I think it's always presented to whatever body it is, either the planning commission or town council, with the idea that we want to hear what they have to say, and they're able to modify as if there's some concerns about what's actually in these reports. So, no, and I think in this case, we really wanted to know, it's sort of a prelim to what we're going to be when we come up with, you know, we want to do all sorts of work with the next step is preparing these, turning these recommendations or translating the recommendations into ordinance or into the code. So we want to be sure that we're in the right direction. So, no, I think that was what we were looking for. and I think we tried to summarize the commission's, I'll go into my report, but
Yeah.
we tried to summarize
please,
the
yeah.
commission's comments, which, we didn't formulate at the time. We sort of took a bunch of the feedback and went back over the tape and whatnot, but summarized that in the staff report and in this presentation, what the planning commission had to say, and then the same way, we're going to be doing that with what the council had to say, and then the regulations will reflect that. It's not that we're going to take every comment that was made and incorporate that, but we know what to look forward to and when we come back to the commission and the council. So,
Does that comprise your report would be?
yeah, I would say one other thing from that may be of interest from for the planning commission from the council meeting was sort of buried in that long agenda. Nisha Patel, our senior engineer, had a consent item that was approved, but it did adopt some complete street policies for the town that, there are policies that are basically mostly relate to the Public Works Department and how they approve capital projects. And when they do approve capital projects, they got to show that they are incorporating all modes of transportation into redesign or what have you on the streets. So that includes more emphasis on bicycle and pedestrian, and also incorporates that there's language in there that talks about all departments sort of thinking about that as they develop their policies as well as we are doing. So, but it's sort of formalized, and it also allows the town to now be qualified for funding from the state and then MTC. That's most of, that's my report for now. Anything, Doug, do you have anything you want to mention? Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate that, thanks. Also, next Tuesday at the council, we are going to be discussing short-term rentals. That was a request.
Airbnb?
Yes, otherwise known as Airbnb. That was at the request some time ago of Mayor Sloan Bailey. So that will be discussed. We'll have a staff report out this week. With Doug's done a lot of great research on that as well. But it's really an opening sort of opportunity, and hopefully we'll get some direction. They may want the planning commission at some point to take this up, but we're just trying to get some sense of, and hopefully for those watching at home right now, they can get some additional notice on that as well. We're going to be obviously noticing it as much as we can on our website and whatnot, but this is just the opening sort of discussion on the issue.
They don't have a lot of other items on the agenda, because that could be a meeting and a half in itself.
You're right. I
controversial,
mean,
I think.
it'll be interesting. I mean, it's really hard to tell what is going to be said and who comes and what the various interests are. Each community seems to have different viewpoints on this. So just be aware of that. If you're interested, you can come. Next Tuesday.
And you're preparing a staff presentation on regulation or just status or?
We're trying to, as best we can, frame the issues, that have been raised along, considerations that the council may want to think about when they think about this issue of short-term rentals, what they are, who benefits, what are some of the concerns, and what other places have done in response. And also from staff's perspective, what we've encountered at the, from calls or whatnot, people coming in.
That seems to be the most important thing. Does everybody take note that the Chronicle had that large article about all of this that was many pages long,
Yes.
describing a lot of impacts, and
Yeah.
it was,
They would charge us some kind of
well, they have fees for,
It's a strange fee.
Yeah, and I think Doug's put together a long list of things you could do, many different, there's a whole range of things that can be done, but lots of
Phyllis?
things to think about.
Yes.
Without making it a formal request to go on the agenda, I'm not just asking a question. I'm concerned that we still haven't gotten to the junior, second units. And really, so much of the work has been done, especially with the outstanding ordinance put together by Novato, and then the work that that's really put on, I mean, all of the stuff that I collected, I passed on to Adam, that it would be easy. It's not like we're starting from scratch, reinventing the wheel. It would be easy for us to put something together we can discuss, make a recommendation to the council, because I think.
That's on our, I mean, we've outlined that in, to the town council. I know Sloan has put that on, so we're planning on trying to get that done in September.
Oh, good.
But, yeah.
I think before you talk about the short-term rentals, that you have to really look at something, to me, it makes more sense to look first at like junior, second unit for people who are gonna be there for a while rather than the person who's gonna be there for a week or a month.
I think, I don't know whether that'll be a part of your presentation, but I see your point.
They're
so-
two separate things entirely, but I'm looking at what I think is more important to the community. And I think the junior, second units is a more important form of housing for the community. to
Well,
be
it's,
aware of
a lot of this,
than-
we're taking the priority from what the council, what
I
they
know,
directed.
then, the fact that somebody.
But we're gonna get to them all, I try to, and it will be relatively quick succession. I put it this way, if this eases I do agree that there's more material to get to an ordinance much more quickly on the junior, second units than there is on a short-term rental ordinance. That may take many more public conversations.
All right, with that said, does anybody have any questions about the other proposed items on the agenda for our next meeting? And I would only ask if there's any address you want to make of item C.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we're not confirmed on that yet, and I would note there's two different pieces here, which I think we will break them into two different pieces probably. But one aspect, yes, we're talking about Tam Ridge residences and colors. So some of this, the one that we've discussed before relates to a follow-up from April 19th Joint Planning Commission Town Council meeting where we discussed the colors along the freeway-facing facade of, I think it's Building 1. There's another proposal to change actually the colors on the corner of Tamil Vista and Warnham. And I think that would be a separate thing that is at the applicant's own, basically listening to conversations and wants to bring that forward as a proposal that they think would be an enhancement. So we don't want to get into that yet.
Them to make them both the same color, so it's
It should
like-
be uniform.
Like all of these.
I agree.
pieces.
Well,
I mean, this
they're
is
two
not-
totally different locations,
Right.
but
Yeah, sure.
Yes, but you-
Hang on a second.
we're not going to talk about the,
Let's just, we're just asking about what the content of the agenda is, that's all
Yes,
that we're
yeah.
doing here right now.
and they don't have to, I mean, they don't, there's nothing that
Right.
they have to come forward with on that. They proposing to voluntarily do it, yeah.
So-
Why is it a permit amendment for the color?
Yeah,
Because
so,
I thought it was
well,
kind
as,
of discretionary, they were trying to accommodate some of the issues that were raised.
well,
but-
they are, but as you know, if we approve plans with colors and so on and so forth, materials, and if it's significant enough, which obviously in this case they have been, we request that you're amending your application that was approved.
Okay.
And so in order to do that, it's a permit amendment. Now, yes, so that's the formal way to process something like that
Okay.
and to
Was
make it official, yeah.
Wasn't part of that joint meeting, though, was they were gonna go back and do the samples?
Yes, and so yes,
That
that's part of it,
happened?
yes.
That has happened.
Well, no,
No.
part of it has, yes. If you go
Well-
out there, you can pick it out. But in any case, that would be part of this. They would have to do that, they would do that as part of this permit amendment.
Before the amendment?
Before the meeting, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm still, we'll still discuss whether or not how the council would be involved on that aspect of it, the freeway facing sign, because they were involved at the joint meeting, so I'll be talking to the town
So-
manager about that.
Just a sec. So part of the issue here is simply that where they had expressed some hesitation about replacement of some of the materials, I think it's become sort of a fait accompli that it's possible to change more significant elements of the facade than were previously under consideration.
Right, if you go out there now, there's the darker Prodema on the back, on that
Right.
freeway facing
Right.
side,
And
not the
so, all
lighter.
right, it's, anyway, so
But that
Bob,
was already there, wasn't it?
The darker, no,
that was not.
not the darker one.
Bob, you had a question about this?
Yeah, on item A, 5124, is this preliminary? Has this been through BCDC, Corps of Engineers, Coastal Conservancy, everybody else, or?
Well, they don't make they always wait for us, frankly.
So this is the initial?
No, they've definitely been, and I won't get into it, but just, this is a formal public hearing for this from a design review aspect. Our purview is design review of this.
Okay.
And they can discuss. There will be in fact, already there's an initial study that's been prepared by CEQA related to this application that's out for public comment right now. So yes, all the other agencies are very much aware of this.
Okay.
All right. Phyllis, are you,
I was just going to say, when you mentioned that C would have to go back to the council,
Well-
wouldn't it have, even if they hadn't had a joint meeting with us, since they approved the project to begin with, wouldn't it have to go back to them after we approve?
I don't, I think there's different ways you could approach this. So I think it's in consultation with the town manager, what they would like to see us do at the planning commission.
so, yeah, procedurally.
I will say, and that's why and that's exactly why I think they should be broken into two different pieces here. There's the corner at Demel Vista and Warnham, which has not come up before, which today we could do as a permanent amendment the same way that we did as a house. The house that changed to the white color
Right.
up on Redwood stays within the planning commission. The other one is the freeway facing facade is a little bit of a larger, it's a different discussion in some ways in terms of process.
Neither one are de novo applications, they're simply modifications to the existing
That's right,
permits.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So,
So that's
I hope that covers our queries about the upcoming
about the
agenda
agenda.
items. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
So be it.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.